Baron Burboom was caught off guard as Aria held out the cravat. I've come to return the gift you sent me, she stated calmly. The Baron blinked in confusion before realization struck. This cravat, this was sent to Investor A. His eyes widened. Aria smirked. If you plan to send me a gift next time, scented oils would be more fitting. As an investor, I have yet to try your products. Don't you think that's strange? The Baron paled. Lady Aria is Investor A. Seeing his stunned reaction, Aria turned to leave, but the Baron quickly composed himself. Wait, please forgive my rudeness, my lady. Feigning innocence, Aria tilted her head. What do you mean? I only came to say hello today. I'll be going now. Just then, Annie rushed over with several packages. Miss, I bought all the oils we need. Aria raised an eyebrow. Really? Shall we get going, then? Still flustered, Baron Burboom quickly presented a box. Please accept this small gift. Aria took it, her lips curving slightly. It's not small at all. I don't think I can carry all of these. The Baron hesitated before handing her a bouquet of flowers. And this as well. Flowers? Aria examined them with mild curiosity. They've been treated to retain their shape and fragrance for a long time, Baron Burboom explained. We plan to introduce them to the market soon. Aria nodded. They are quite beautiful. You have good taste. I have one for you as well, my lady, the Baron added, turning to Annie. For me? Annie's eyes widened. Oh, do you dislike the color? The Baron asked. No, it's not that. Annie blushed. Thank you. Aria smirked. How thoughtful of you to prepare a bouquet for my lady-in-waiting as well. The Baron chuckled nervously. So that's who she is, he murmured before addressing Annie. Excuse me, my lady, but what is your name? Annie hesitated, but Aria answered for her. Her name is Annie. She gestured to the Baron. Annie, this is Baron Burboom. He's a businessman with a promising future. The Baron smiled. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Annie. You have beautiful eyes. Annie blushed furiously. Aria narrowed her eyes slightly. You certainly have an eye for beauty, Baron Burboom. The Baron, looking flustered, laughed awkwardly. Not at all. I was just... But please keep my identity as your investor a secret, Aria interrupted. You understand why I used an alias, don't you? Of course, the Baron assured her, then added with a charming smile. You have a beautiful smile, Investor. On the way home, Annie held her flushed cheeks, her eyes shining. Miss, how does someone as wonderful as Baron Burboom exist? Aria glanced at her, amused. Is that what you think? Yes, he's really wonderful. Annie gushed. Aria smirked inwardly. She analyzed the situation swiftly. Annie wanted to climb the social ladder, and the Baron seemed to have a promising future. If she used Annie to strengthen her connection to him, it could be advantageous. Her expression turned calculating. The Baron wouldn't be swayed by looks alone. Men like him required more than mere appearance. Upon their return, Annie asked, Shall I take these up to your room, miss? Aria shook her head. Leave them in the hall. Annie frowned. Will you call all the maids to the hall? Of course. Miss, are you giving all these oils to them? Yes, but they're expensive. Aria gave her a pointed look. How would I use all of them myself? Then at least set some aside for yourself, Annie suggested hesitantly. I already have some, and I can always buy more when I run out. Aria's tone was firm. When that time comes, you can go to the store and pick some out. The Baron's store? Annie's face flushed. That's right. Aria smirked. Maybe you should ask him to pick some for you. Pick some? Annie stammered. What's wrong? Aria teased. Didn't you say he was wonderful? Surely you wouldn't mind seeing him again. Annie looked like she might faint. Miss, I'll gather the maids right away. Aria chuckled. Good. From now on, you're in charge of my scented oils. Keep them stocked. Yes. Thank you, miss. Annie beamed before dashing off, only to pause at Aria's final remark. But don't go breaking the bottles on purpose. Of course not, Annie called back. Sometime later, Annie dressed up carefully before announcing she would visit Baron Burboom's store for scented oil. She returned looking dazed. I'm back, miss. Aria studied her. Barry, bring some tea. Yes, miss, Aria turned back to Annie. What's wrong? Was the Baron cold to you? Annie flinched. No, not at all. He was very kind. It's just... What is it? I'm just not as beautiful or anything, Annie mumbled. Aria sighed, placing a hand on Annie's shoulder. Annie, I think you're misunderstanding something. Pardon? You're more drawn to his wealth and status than to him as a person, aren't you? Is that really it? Annie looked uncertain. Aria smirked. Think about it. Would you have fallen for him if he were a commoner? No. See? Aria said calmly. Love is just a mutually beneficial agreement given a prettier name. Only those who understand that get what they want. You're smart enough to know that, aren't you? Annie swallowed. Yes, miss. You're right. Aria nodded. We must do whatever it takes to achieve our goals, and close our hearts before we get hurt. That was the path she had chosen in this life. During dinner, Aria took a bite of her food and frowned. The dressing is sweet again. Miel scoffed. I managed to get some sugar, but the food is still bland. Count Rochent sighed. The Crown Prince is slow to act on this issue. He really is useless, Miel added dismissively. Aria glanced at the maid beside her, who smiled slightly. The scent, Aria now understood. She smiled to herself. See, Annie, everything is built on mutually beneficial relationships. Never forget that. The grand estate was lively with visitors, and as Aria stood in the hall, a familiar voice called out, Hello, long time no see. Lane greeted cheerfully. Aria raised an eyebrow. Why is Lane here? She murmured. Lane gestured to the lavish assortment of gifts. These are for you, Lady Miel. The maids gasped as they took in the luxurious offerings. Sugar and honey? And such a large amount. Lane smiled. Only the best for Lady Miel. Aria observed him silently. Lord Asher seemed interested in me, not Miel. As if sensing her thoughts, Lane stepped forward. I also have a gift for you, Lady Aria. My servant will carry it up to your room. Oh, thank you, Aria replied, though she was already suspicious. What is Lord Asher thinking? She led the servant to her room, watching as he set down the large box. You can leave it there, she instructed. A familiar voice interrupted. It's been a while, Lady Aria, Lord Asher greeted, pulling back his hood to reveal his disguise. Aria met his gaze calmly. Lord Asher? Yes, it has been. But why are you here? He smirked. You don't seem very surprised. You've appeared so suddenly before that I've gotten used to it, she said, her expression steady. Oh dear, I'm glad you're used to me, he teased. But it seems I was the only one eager to meet. That's a little disappointing. You wanted to see me? She asked, narrowing her eyes. Yes. There haven't been many gatherings recently, so we haven't had the chance to meet. You've been busy as always, she noted. Is that why you're here? Did you come just to see me? Yes. Asher's voice was warm. Aria hesitated before questioning. Is that really all? He tilted his head. I'm sorry, but yes, I simply wanted to see you. Aria's face warmed slightly. Then why did you give Miel the sugar? Oh, that. Asher chuckled. That was just a way to see you. Her breath caught for a moment. What? I knew if I gifted the sugar formally, it would be shared with the household. With sugar being so rare, I assumed they'd serve Lane tea as thanks. And that would give me a reason to visit you, Lady Aria. Aria's thoughts raced. So he's not interested in Miel. Asher studied her expression before smirking. Lady Aria, are you jealous by any chance? Her face heated up. What? Of course not. You mistook me before and sent Miel all your gifts. I wondered if you'd made the same mistake again, she replied tensely, turning away. Ha-ha! Asher chuckled. I was just making sure a capable man like Lord Asher hadn't switched sides. I wasn't jealous, Aria reassured herself. I won't make such a mistake again. I swear it, Asher said seriously. Aria faltered. You don't have to go that far. A knock at the door interrupted them. I'll sort out my business and contact you soon, Asher assured her. Lane peeked in. Lord Asher, we must go, he whispered. Asher gave Aria one last glance. I hope to see you at our next gathering. All right, see you soon. As he left, Aria crossed her arms. Humph. Me? Jealous? Who is he kidding? Jessie entered with a tea set. Miss, I've brought you some tea. Aria blinked. Barry should be doing that. Why are you bringing the tea? But you love sweet tea, miss. They're also baking a cake in the kitchen. I'll bring it up shortly, Jessie replied with a smile. Thank you, Aria said, sipping her tea. She turned to the extravagant gifts, eyeing an ornate dress. Wow, this is amazing. A dress and accessories, Jessie noted, cheeks flushed. Aria frowned. This kind of dress will attract too much attention. I need to maintain my image. I doubt I'll use it. She paused. Did he send these gifts to make up for the ones he gave Miel before? Aria sighed. I've set aside my plans involving men. This kind of attention isn't useful to me. Annie entered, holding a letter. Miss, I've sent letters of dismissal to your private tutors, and this is from the Baron. Aria took it. Is this about the young businessman seeking investors? Yes, he said they have good ideas and promising futures. Baron Burboom sorted through them, but he wants you to make the final decision. Aria smirked at Annie. From your mood, I assume the Baron was sweet to you today as well. Annie blushed. He was. I think showing him my hard-working nature paid off. But I only followed your advice, miss. I thought a woman like you would be his type, Aria remarked. You two seem like a good match. You're amazing, Miss Aria. Your last investment was an instant success, too. You have such a good eye for this. Aria sipped her tea thoughtfully. It's not amazing. I'm just using my knowledge of the past to make the right choices. A sudden memory of Asher flashed through her mind. She froze, cheeks heating up. She clenched the letter. I'll use everything at my disposal. That's the best course of action. Later, in her carriage, Aria opened a letter from Sarah. I'm sorry for writing so late, Aria. It's been so long since we last met. I can't wait to see you again. The Marquise and I will be waiting. See you soon. When the carriage arrived, Aria remained seated for a moment, glancing at Jessie. Do I look all right, Jessie? Jessie looked surprised. Pardon? Does anything look out of place? Aria asked. Of course not. You always look perfect, Miss Aria. Good. She took a deep breath. It's time to see how my efforts with Sarah have paid off. As she stepped out, the Marquise greeted her. Welcome to my estate, Lady Aria Rosent. Aria hesitated. I expected Sarah, not the Marquis. Are you all right, my lady? He asked, helping her down. I'm fine, she replied quickly. Just then, a familiar voice called out. Lady Aria, it's been so long, I missed you. Sarah exclaimed, hugging her tightly. Aria smiled. Me too. Come inside. We've been waiting, Sarah said, leading her in. At the dining table, an assortment of dishes was laid out. Thank you for your hospitality, Aria said softly. I should be the one thanking you, the Marquis replied. If not for you, I wouldn't have met Sarah. He's right. The handkerchief that brought us together was embroidered for your birthday, Sarah added. Aria chuckled inwardly. That would have happened regardless of my birthday. Not at all, she replied. It was thanks to your embroidery skills, Lady Sarah. Sarah smiled. I remember working hard on it to match the one I wanted to gift you, Lady Aria. It made me so happy to make it for you. Aria was momentarily surprised. I'm so glad someone appreciated that part of me. Sarah continued, If not for that handkerchief, I wouldn't have met such a special person. It's almost as if you created my happiness. Thank you, Aria. Aria observed the couple quietly. You know nothing, Sarah. I chose you because I wanted to survive. That's all there was to it. But as she looked at Sarah's warm smile, her expression softened. Still, I truly hope you two will be happy. Aria sat in her chamber as Jessie embroidered a handkerchief, glancing up with curiosity. You want your birthday party to be smaller than last time? She asked. Aria nodded. Please plan for a small gathering. Jessie hesitated. But Lady Miel's party is right after yours. I heard she's hosting a grand event since Lady Isis will be attending. Wouldn't it be better if we prepared something bigger for you as well? A smirk played on Aria's lips as she continued reading her book. That's exactly why I want a smaller party. Jessie looked puzzled. Pardon? Lady Isis wouldn't attend Miel's party without a reason. There's no need to attract unnecessary attention right before hers, Aria explained. Besides, Sarah can't stay long because she's busy. A flicker of hesitation crossed her face, though she quickly dismissed it. I can't afford to be swayed by useless emotions. My focus is survival. Moments later, a maid entered carrying a bundle. Some flowers and gifts have arrived from an anonymous sender. Aria frowned. Anonymous? What's the point in sending these without a name? She sighed, setting the flowers aside. My birthday passed quietly, so why now? Time passed quickly, and soon it was Miel's birthday. As Aria entered the lavishly decorated hall, hushed whispers filled the air. Goodness, she's here again, one noblewoman murmured. The girl has no shame, another added. She's the prostitute's daughter, isn't she? Some people should never have been born. Aria took a slow sip of her tea, unfazed. Beside her, Annie frowned. They have such foul mouths. Should we head back upstairs, miss? Aria remained composed. Don't worry. We were invited, so we should keep our heads held high. Her gaze swept the room, her expression unreadable. Besides, I want to see what Lady Isis has in store. Whatever it is, I'd rather witness it myself than hear about it later. A ripple of excitement spread through the hall as Miel entered with Oscar by her side. The star of the party has arrived, someone whispered. They make a lovely couple, another added. Aria's expression didn't change. I expected Oscar to be here. However, what truly caught her attention was the unexpected presence of Duchess Frederick. Why is she here? Aria's eyes narrowed. Then Lady Isis stepped forward and cleared her throat. Thank you all for coming. There is something I wish to announce. A sense of unease crept over Aria. Wait, it can't be. As these two are so fond of each other, Lady Isis continued, I had no choice but to approve. Once Lady Miel comes of age, she will be engaged to Oscar. A wave of applause filled the room. Aria clenched her fists. She had known this would happen eventually, but a small part of her had held on to the possibility that Oscar might choose differently. Miss, Annie whispered, noticing her reaction. Without another word, Aria rose from her seat and walked out of the hall, her steps quick and steady. Annie followed but hesitated when Aria spoke. Leave me be. Yes, miss. In the quiet of the garden, Aria let out a slow breath, forcing herself to think clearly. It was never about Oscar. I only wanted to take away what Miel cherished most. But now that opportunity was gone. No matter how much I want something, there are things I can't reach. There's always an invisible wall before me. Returning to her room, she found a small package at her door. Inside was a brooch, the same one she had once gifted Oscar. Her hands trembled as anger flared in her chest. So, he won't take action, but he still wants me to understand him? She raised the brooch, ready to throw it away, but her gaze landed on the flowers she had received earlier. Stay level-headed, Aria. You're not the person you were before. Don't discard everything you've built. Her frustration melted into cold determination. Miel's power isn't absolute yet. I still have time before she gains real influence. I'll use every opportunity I have because if I do nothing, all that awaits me is death. She stepped to the window, her resolve unwavering. The next morning, breakfast at the Rochent estate was lively with talk of Miel's engagement. I think it'd be best to hold the ceremony after Lady Isis's wedding, Miel said cheerfully. That's right, her father agreed. The Crown Prince is slow to resolve the sugar trade issues, so their marriage is taking longer than expected. Hopefully, everything will be settled by then. Lady Isis wouldn't tolerate delays otherwise, Miel replied confidently. If the Crown Prince and the King attend the engagement, other nobles will as well, right? The Countess asked, glancing at Aria. Miel nodded. Yes, but only those with refined tastes will truly matter. Then we must prepare a suitable dress for the occasion, the Countess mused. Should I find a designer? Miel scoffed. House Frederick has a ceremonial dress that has been passed down for generations. It's tradition for the women of the house to wear it at such events. Aria set her teacup down and smiled. That sounds like a wonderful tradition. Congratulations, Miel. I'm sure you'll be the most beautiful bride in the Empire. Miel beamed. Thank you, Aria. Aria's expression remained unreadable. By the way, Miel, would you look at this brooch? I received it as a gift. Doesn't it look similar to the one Oscar gave you? Miel's smile faltered as her eyes landed on the red rose embedded in the jewel. That design? Is that? It seems quite expensive, the Countess remarked. Who gave it to you, Aria? It looks like you two have matching brooches. Aria smirked. I don't know. It was left outside my room on the night of Miel's birthday party. The red roses remind me of House Frederick's seal. Don't you think they're beautiful, Miel? Miel's fingers twitched. Back in her room, she hurled her clock against the wall in frustration. Emma hesitated. Miss? Miel trembled, her voice low with fury. That wretched girl and her games. She won't get away with this. She won't. Lord Oscar is mine. Are you hurt? Emma asked softly. Miel shook her head as she sat down. No. Emma quickly gathered the broken fragments from the floor, sighing. What about the new maid we sent to Aria? Miel inquired. Emma's expression darkened. She's trying, but things aren't going well, she admitted. Barry's words echoed in her mind. Those wenches won't stop harassing me and piling on work. I barely had time to come here and report. Then, Barry had rushed off on another errand before Emma could say more. Emma tied up the trash bag, scowling. Those wicked girls! This won't do, Miel muttered, reaching for a pen and paper. I'll write to Lady Isis. Emma hesitated. But miss, you've been corresponding with Lady Isis for a while regarding your engagement. She's already burdened with aristocratic matters. Perhaps it's best not to trouble her further. Miel clenched her teeth but forced herself to stay calm. Emma approached her seat and spoke in a soothing tone. You've even exchanged rings. Have faith in Lord Oscar and Lady Isis. Just wait a little longer. Miel smiled thinly. Of course, I trust Lord Oscar, but that little leech keeps bothering him. I'll handle it, Emma assured her. But how? Emma's lips curled into a smirk. Since she's a pest, perhaps we should put some insect repellent in her tea. Miel's eyes gleamed with amusement. But since the groom was punished over the carriage incident last time, no one will volunteer for the task. I'll take care of that problem. You should focus on your future as a duchess, Emma said softly, rubbing her shoulders. Miel leaned back with satisfaction. You're right. I'll be the future duchess after all. Emma nodded. That's right. By the way, I've heard there's an influential new group on the rise among young nobles. They're excelling in business ventures. Miel's interest piqued. I've heard about them too. They'll need connections to expand. If House Resent extends a hand, they'll surely accept. That could also help solve the aristocratic party's financial troubles. This could be a good opportunity for you and Lady Isis, Emma added. Miel tapped her fingers on the table thoughtfully. I like that idea. Why didn't I think of it sooner? I'll schedule a gathering. Contact the wives of that group for me. Yes, miss, Emma replied. Later, as carriages arrived at the estate, Aria watched from her window. Are they here again? She asked. Yes, Annie confirmed. Lady Miel is hosting another tea party for the wives of lower nobles and even some commoners. She looked perplexed. Aria raised an eyebrow. Miel usually wouldn't bother with anyone outside high society. What are they talking about? Annie hesitated. Mostly about their husbands' businesses? I didn't catch anything specific. Aria narrowed her eyes. This didn't happen in the past. What is she up to? With a knowing smile, she quickly changed into a refined gown and made her way to the tea party. Stepping gracefully into the gathering, Aria smiled warmly. I heard we had guests, so I came to greet you. It looks like a lovely gathering. The ladies turned in surprise. Ah, Lady Aria Rochent, one of them greeted, bowing courteously. Hello, Aria responded, scanning the room. I don't believe we've met before. May I join you? Murmurs spread among the guests. She's that rumored villainess. They say her teeth are sharp like a monster's. I was curious to see what kind of person she'd be. Despite the whispers, the ladies smiled and welcomed her. Taking her seat, Aria observed them keenly. They're commoners or from lower noble families. That's why they don't seem overly concerned about noble etiquette, and why no one asked for Miel's approval before accepting me into the group. The woman beside her spoke up. Let me introduce myself. I am Baroness Kun. She hesitated before the others quickly followed. Aria smirked inwardly. They're all wives of nobles whose businesses I've invested in. She turned to Miel, who maintained a composed expression. So that's her plan. She's trying to align herself with the new rising powers in the nobility. Impressive. I didn't expect her to think that far ahead. The conversation soon shifted to investments. The investor was willing to fund my husband's business after just seeing his plan, one woman said excitedly. Again? But isn't that risky? Another asked, surprised. They don't invest in just anything, someone else chimed in. Their businesses always seem to succeed. Aria fanned herself, hiding a slight blush. They're talking about me. I'd love to meet this investor, Miel said smoothly. Aria's lips curved slightly. By the way, I heard Baron Klin recently started importing spices, she commented. The ladies exchanged glances. Are the rumors spreading already? We haven't even put them on the market yet, one woman replied. Aria smiled. I have a personal interest in trade. I simply came across the information. He discovered a new import route, avoiding the higher nobles' monopoly on spices, correct? I imagine it'll be quite popular among commoners. That's exactly right. The investor encouraged us, saying the same thing, the woman beamed. Then I'm sure your business will flourish, Aria responded. Miel, however, frowned slightly. You work, madam? She asked, turning to one of the wives. Yes, my husband manages sales while I handle inventory and accounting, the woman replied. Miel looked puzzled. Why do you do those tasks yourself? Couldn't you hire a professional? We started with little capital, so I stepped in where needed. But I also found I enjoy the work, she explained with a smile. Miel shook her head. That won't do. A wife's duty is to manage the household, Aria countered smoothly. But isn't the family more successful now because she contributed her skills? The woman smiled tensely. Thank you both for your perspectives. For now, I'll keep helping my husband, but I plan to manage the household later. That's wise, Miel said. Running a noble household is a demanding role. I'd be happy to teach you more about it at my next gathering. In fact, I'd like all of you to attend. I'll introduce you to the other noblewomen I associate with. At the mention of noblewomen, tension filled the air. Is she talking about Lady Isis? The wives whispered. Just then, Emma distributed small boxes. As a token of appreciation, please accept these gifts, Miel said softly. Aria's eyes widened slightly. Crystal brooches in the shape of roses? Not lilies? She's already acting like a duchess, and she copied my idea of gifting brooches. The wives exchanged nervous glances. This is too extravagant for me. I don't think I should attend a nobles gathering as a commoner. I barely managed to come today. Another gathering would be difficult. Seeing their hesitance, Miel's expression darkened. Then I suppose this gathering ends here. The ladies gasped as she abruptly stood. I don't feel well, so I'll be heading upstairs. There won't be another gathering, so don't worry, she said coldly before leaving with Emma. The guests exchanged anxious looks. Did we offend her? Aria observed the situation calmly. Now's my chance. If it's all right with you, she said smoothly, may I host the next gathering? The ladies hesitated. Are they unsure because I lack Miel's influence? Aria wondered. Then one of them spoke. Lady Aria, would you care to attend our gathering instead? Aria blinked, momentarily taken aback. Pardon? You want me to attend yours? Prince Asher listened as Lane reported that he had obtained an invitation to Baron Burboom's gathering. Asher, intrigued by the opportunity, questioned how Lane had acquired it. Lane explained that his cousin, often ridiculed for his business ideas, had been invited, likely as a way to assess potential members. Asher saw an opportunity. If the Baron's backers were not aligned with the aristocratic party, it would be beneficial to bring them to his side. He decided to attend, planning to return to the capital soon. Lane then shifted the conversation to political matters. The Duke's house was pressuring for luxury goods to be reintroduced to the market, and even the king was calling for Asher's return. Asher smirked at their hypocrisy. They had sent him to the border under the guise of duty, yet now they struggled with the consequences. Lane reported that 13 nobles had gone bankrupt due to the trade restrictions. Asher ordered the goods to be released strategically, ensuring the market prices would plummet and further destabilize those who had hoarded supplies. The discussion turned to Viscount Vig, who was running illegal operations through the casino. Though backed by Lady Isis, his reckless actions were likely beyond her control. Asher noted that Lady Aria had previously advised selling the casino at the perfect time, proving her keen insight. Lane teased Asher about his obvious admiration for Aria, suggesting he visit her. Asher dismissed the idea, noting that his ability to travel quickly came with side effects, but Lane playfully vowed to work harder so Asher could see her sooner. Meanwhile, Marquise Vincent read a letter from Asher, ordering the sale of luxury goods at half price. Remembering their previous meeting, Vincent realized Asher had chosen him because he wouldn't favor the aristocratic party's higher nobles. Though reluctant to be involved in political struggles, he agreed with Asher's approach. Breaking the monopolization of trade would benefit the commoners. Signing off on the order, he acknowledged that the crown prince had changed. At House Rosent, Annie excitedly informed Aria that the crown prince had uncovered corruption within the casino. Aria, unfazed, pieced together that Viscount Vig's involvement had likely been part of Asher's larger scheme. If the aristocratic party continued to weaken, Asher might not have to marry Lady Isis, a thought Aria found favorable. Annie fretted over the potential downfall of House Rosent, but Aria smirked, indifferent to their fate. She then turned her attention to Barry, criticizing her tea-making skills. When Barry glared, Annie slapped her, accusing her of disrespect. As Aria's teacup shattered, she coldly ordered Barry to clean up and prepare another pot. Later, she cruelly insisted Barry drink the tea herself before cleaning the hallway. As Barry seethed in silence, Aria inwardly smirked. She was waiting for Barry to reveal her true nature, setting the stage for her revenge. At the dining table, Count Rashent was visibly frustrated. I never expected Marquis Vincent to take such a stance. Lowering the price of luxury goods, wasn't he a centrist? Miel asked softly. The Count sighed. He was. I asked him to raise the prices, but he refused, claiming he was only selling cheap stock at cheap prices. How selfish. The Countess interjected with concern. And then there's the Viscount Vig incident. The aristocratic party has faced one crisis after another. She lowered her voice. They say the Crown Prince obtained a ledger exposing the casino's illegal dealings, and it contains unmentionable names. Aria, feigning curiosity, asked, Is the Duke's name in it? But inwardly, she was piecing things together. The Crown Prince was once powerless, yet now he was openly cracking down on the nobility. A thought struck her. Could Asher be the Emperor's hidden son? The idea made her heart pound. It would explain his wealth, secrecy, and influence. Count Rochent suddenly turned to her. Do you have a solution to this mess? Aria met his gaze but remained indifferent. I owe you nothing. Outwardly, she feigned innocence. I'm not sure. I barely understand what you're talking about, she said sweetly, knowing they would just credit Miel for any idea she proposed. Miel smirked. I suppose it's too difficult for you to understand, Aria. Aria's expression faltered slightly. Are you all right? You look unwell, her mother asked. You must have a headache from trying to follow the conversation, Miel teased. Yes, you should rest, her mother agreed. Aria ignored their condescension, though the weight of the situation pressed on her. Later, as Aria prepared to go out, Annie fussed over her appearance. Miss, why don't you at least wear this necklace? Your attire is too simple. Aria waved her off. It's not that kind of gathering. Besides, I stand out no matter what I wear, don't I? Annie chuckled. That's true. Before leaving, Annie snapped at Barry. Clean the hallway and stairs. Make sure they're spotless. Barry mumbled a reluctant, Of course. Upon arriving at the gathering, a familiar voice called out, Oh, you're here! Long time no see, Baroness Kiln. It's nice to see you, Aria greeted. The Baroness smiled warmly. I also just arrived. Let's head in together. At the entrance, Baron Berboom greeted them stiffly. Welcome, he said. Aria chuckled. I came because I was invited. A sudden commotion caught her attention. Annie, linking her arm with Baron Berboom's, smiled sweetly. Baron Berboom? She said playfully. The Baron gasped. Miss Annie, you two seem close, Aria remarked. The Baroness grinned. Indeed. Shall we go in? Baroness Kiln led them inside, leaving the Baron stunned as Annie whispered, I made your favorite pumpkin tarts. The Baron softened. Thank you. The meeting's about to start, but if we finish early, would you like to watch a play with me? Miss Annie, she's so cute, he thought, looking flustered. As Annie walked away, he couldn't stop watching her. Meanwhile, another noble approached the Baron. Lord Louis Pinanua is here, he announced. It was Prince Asher, under his alias. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am Louis Pinanua, Asher introduced himself. Baron Berboom looked surprised. You seem quite different from the rumors. I heard you were frail. Asher smiled faintly. There must be all sorts of rumors about me. Perhaps because I rarely leave my room. The Baron nodded. We really shouldn't judge people based on rumors alone. I agree, Asher said softly as he was led inside. As he entered, he scanned the room, so many influential people he hadn't even known existed last year. But then his eyes landed on Aria. They froze. Why is she here? Why is he here? Tension crackled between them. Lord Louis, what's wrong? Baron Berboom asked. Aria stiffened. Lord Louis? As in Louis Pinanua? A seat was offered to Asher, and he hesitated before taking it. Aria narrowed her eyes. What's going on? Asher is Louis Pinanua? Baron Berboom officially introduced him. Let me introduce Lord Louis Pinanua. He has recently received an investment offer for his business venture. Asher spoke with polite confidence. I am honored to be here. Applause filled the room, but Aria was dazed. So Asher was Lord Louis all along? He said he was too busy to see me because of his business. But House Pinanua isn't wealthy. What the hell is going on? She stole a glance at him, but he refused to meet her eyes. I looked away before I could stop myself, Asher thought, his smile tense. Aria clenched her fist. Discovering his identity like this feels anticlimactic. Then, the host of the meeting spoke. We have another newcomer, Please introduce yourself, my lady. Aria stood gracefully. All right, my name is Aria Rosent. A murmur spread through the room. She's from House Rosent? I haven't received investments myself, Aria continued, but I accepted the invitation to meet those shaping our nation's future. Baroness Kiln cheerfully chimed in. I recently visited House Rosent and was impressed by Lady Aria. She even challenged Lady Meal's belief that a woman's role is only to support her husband. Some of the men in the room nodded. It's surprising to hear such dated views still exist. Women contribute greatly to our businesses. Baron Burboom tensed as Baroness Kiln added, Lady Aria also had insightful opinions about business, similar to the investor's advice. Asher silently observed Baron Burboom's reaction. Why does he keep looking at Lady Aria? Aria noticed. He won't look at me, but he keeps staring at Baron Burboom. She concluded her introduction smoothly. Shall we begin the meeting? She turned to Asher. Since you're new here, I'd love to hear about your business venture, Lord Louis Pinanua. All eyes turned to him. Aria smirked inwardly. If the investor accepted your proposal, it must be interesting, but I saw weak points. Let's hear what you have to say. I'm ready to nitpick every flaw. Asher smiled at her challenge. Since you're curious, let me tell you about my business. He stood, holding a sealed envelope. I've been planning to build a school. Aria's eyes widened. A school? She thought, stunned. Asher stood before the gathered merchants, his voice steady with conviction. I don't plan to build just any school. This will be an institution open to all, regardless of age or status. A murmur spread through the room, skepticism evident in the investors' expressions. Aria frowned. This is completely different from the proposal he submitted. A school? Would that even be profitable? Calmly, Asher handed out his revised plan. We'll establish a school in the capital, not an elite academy for nobles, but a place where commoners can receive practical education in business, trade, and other skills. A merchant's interest piqued. I see. So, you're aiming to train skilled workers for businesses like ours? Exactly, Asher confirmed. With your investments, you won't just be funding education, you'll be securing a workforce tailored to your needs. Aria remained skeptical. Training people sounds useful, but this is a long-term investment. Most commoners can't afford tuition, and investors won't fund something that doesn't offer immediate profit. As if reading her mind, Asher continued, We'll provide scholarships. Students can work within the school to support themselves, and those who excel academically will receive full financial aid. Are you expecting us to cover those costs? A merchant asked cautiously. Asher smiled. Not at all. The funding is already secured. His confident response stirred the crowd. Aria watched him closely. This plan isn't just about business. It's about giving commoners opportunities. Could it be because of me? One merchant stroked his chin. We do need skilled workers. If the school produces competent employees, this could be beneficial. Baroness Kiln added, It's a noble idea, but why approach this particular group? Asher's gaze sharpened. Because you are young and ambitious entrepreneurs, investing in this school will grant you skilled workers and the public's respect. This is a win-win opportunity. A thoughtful silence settled over the room. Aria exhaled, feeling restless. I couldn't focus on the meeting at all because of him, she thought, standing to leave. As the gathering concluded, a familiar voice called out, Shall we go, Lady Aria? Sure, she replied absent-mindedly. Before she could take a step, another voice stopped her. Wait. She turned to see Asher watching her intently. It's been a while, Lady Aria, he said. If you have time, I'd like to talk. I believe you have questions for me as well. Her eyes narrowed. Questions? Oh, you mean the part where you lied to me? Baroness Kiln excused herself, leaving them alone. Asher extended his arm. Shall we take a walk? Aria crossed her arms. Fine. I'd love to hear about the big secret you've been hiding. Baron Burboom, watching from the distance, looked dazed as they departed. They walked in silence until Asher spoke. Let's go somewhere quiet. It's fine, Aria muttered, deep in thought. Asher hesitated. I didn't plan to tell you this today, but I suppose it's time. Aria glanced at him. Lord Louis, he interrupted. I'm not actually Lord Louis Pinanua. She froze. Pardon? A thought struck her. Then, is he really the Emperor's hidden son? Without realizing it, they had arrived in a secluded forest. A small cabin stood ahead, a butler bowing in greeting. Aria blinked. Where are we? The woods near the capital, Asher replied. Her expression hardened. That's impossible. We walked here from the city. There's no way we could have traveled this far so quickly. A memory flashed in her mind. The festival night, the same thing happened. You can't fool me, she snapped. Asher's face grew solemn. Lady Aria, she cut him off. Stop lying to me. I can't keep guessing who you really are. If you won't tell me the truth, She hesitated, her face flushed. I don't think I can continue our relationship. Asher studied her carefully. I understand. Inside the cabin, tea was served. Taking a deep breath, he spoke. The reason we traveled so quickly is because of my power, an ability passed down in my family. Aria's pulse quickened. A power passed down, just like the hourglass? She asked cautiously. This ability, is it from the Pinot Noir family? He shook his head. No, the Pinot Noirs are merely helping me. Aria's eyes widened. Then, you really are part of the royal family? Asher nodded. Yes, my true name is Asterope Franz, the Crown Prince. Silence filled the air. Aria gasped. Asterope? That's why you go by Asher. A wave of realization crashed over her. I should have known. Her face burned with embarrassment as she shot to her feet. I've been so rude to you, Your Highness, Asher chuckled. Don't worry about that, Lady Aria. Aria hesitated before the imposing figure in front of her, lowering her head. Please, raise your head, my lady, Prince Asher said gently. But, Your Highness, it would sadden me if you suddenly put distance between us, he added with a calm expression. Aria's heart pounded as she recalled her past suspicions and careful actions toward him. At least he understands now, she thought. Asher smiled. I never thought you were rude, Lady Aria. Rather, I found that bold side of you quite charming, he said, winking. Aria's breath hitched. What is he saying? What are you saying in a situation like this? She hissed. This is exactly what I find attractive about you. He chuckled. She widened her eyes. How could he be so composed? Regardless, please treat me the same as before. I'd prefer it that way, he reassured her. Aria swallowed. All right, thank you for your kind words. But deep down, she knew she couldn't just ignore who he really was. Asher straightened. I didn't plan this meeting, and I must go now. Oh, but, Aria hesitated. I'm staying in the capital for now. We can meet again anytime, he reassured her. Aria nodded. I'll write to you later. I hope we can talk longer next time, he said, taking her hand and kissing it. Same here, she replied. On her way home, Aria received a business proposal from Louis Pinot Noir. Without hesitation, she signed the investment agreement and sent it through Baron Burboom. With the imperial family funding the school, this is a perfect opportunity to build a connection, she thought. Still, another issue lingered. I still haven't found the right time to tell Asher the truth. She sighed over dinner, lost in thought. Aria, don't you need a dress for the Marquis's engagement ceremony? Her mother asked. Oh, I already have one, she replied with a smile. Her mother looked surprised. Oh, really? Aria nodded. It matches Sarah's. She picked it out for me. Her mother raised an eyebrow. Lady Sarah is your closest friend, isn't she? Pardon? Miel interjected. Marquis Vincent's fiancé used to be Aria's tutor, the Countess said. Miel and Count Rosent paused in surprise. What? Aria's tutor? They echoed. Aria smiled to herself. So they really never paid any attention to me. Later, the Count burst into Aria's room. Aria, what do you think would be a good gift for the Marquise? Aria hesitated. Ever since dinner, he had been overly attentive. How exhausting. I don't really know his taste, she replied. Then maybe you could ask Lady Sarah. She's busy preparing for the ceremony, Aria cut him off. How shameless can he be, she thought. Just then, Jessie entered. There's a letter for you, miss. It's from Lord Asher. Alone, Aria opened it cautiously. It's been a long time, Lady Aria. I hope you are well as the weather turns colder, she sighed in relief. Just a simple letter. It's not like we're courting or anything. Still, her earlier irritation faded. Is this another one of Asher's abilities? She wondered, her cheeks flushing. On the day of the event, Aria got dressed. That necklace looks stunning on you, miss, Annie exclaimed. Jessie nodded. It suits you perfectly. Aria smiled. I wasn't planning to wear anything flashy, but it looked too nice to leave behind. In the carriage, she sat quietly beside Miel, who couldn't stop staring at her necklace. You've grown so much, Aria. A proper lady now, the Count remarked. Well, she is my daughter, her mother added proudly. At Marquis Vincent's estate, noble guests filled the hall. Outside, Sarah rushed to embrace Aria. Aria, I was waiting for you. Marquis Vincent greeted them warmly. It's a pleasure to have you here. Aria curtsied. How have you been, Marquise Vincent? I prepared a small gift for you both. Sarah gasped. I've never received such a precious gift before. Aria smiled. I wanted something special for my dearest friend and teacher. Count Resent approached. It's been a while, Marquis Vincent. Thank you for coming, Vincent replied. Miel stepped forward with a polite smile. Lady Sarah, congratulations on your engagement. Thank you, Lady Miel, Sarah replied. Miel tilted her head. You must be very wise. Lady Sarah, you turned Aria into such a graceful lady after all. If it's all right, I'd love to learn from you over tea sometime. Sarah hesitated. Oh, of course, if time allows. Miel just subtly ignored Aria, Sarah realized. Marquise Vincent ushered them inside. Something wrong? He asked Sarah. Oh, nothing. Just a little nervous, she replied. If you're feeling unwell, please tell me. Thank you, I will, she said with a smile. I hope Aria also finds someone warm to love her someday. As the party continued, noblemen surrounded Aria. I never realized Lady Aria was so beautiful. If only I were 10 years younger. She smiled politely, but the attention felt strange. Does Lady Aria have a fiancé? Someone asked. She's still young, Count Resent replied. I'll take my time finding her a suitable match. Aria forced a polite smile, but her mind wandered. Then she caught a glimpse of someone. Asher? She turned sharply, leaving the hall. Aria? Her mother called after her. Oh dear, she must be flustered. How adorable, she chuckled. Outside, Aria scanned her surroundings. Did I imagine it? Then a coat draped over her shoulders. Looking up, she met Asher's gaze. I just wanted a glimpse of your face before I left, he said. The cold night wind rustled through the lavishly decorated gardens of the Marquis's estate. Asher pulled the cloak tighter around Aria's shoulders. What brings you here, Lord Asher? She asked, her expression calm but curious. I came to congratulate Marquise Vincent on his engagement, he replied smoothly. Aria's mind raced. The Marquise had been instrumental in reintroducing luxury goods to the market, and Pohonua was leading the monopoly. That could only mean the Crown Prince was involved. Was that why he was here? Asher's gaze softened. Is it all right for you to stay out here, Lady Aria? Pardon? She asked, caught off guard. You were surrounded by admirers earlier. Her cheeks flushed. You saw that? And you weren't upset? Of course not, he answered confidently. I have no reason to be jealous. Aria chuckled. As expected of the Crown Prince. Still, he added, they were quite bold. Do they have no shame? Then perhaps you should be bold and come see me too, she teased. Asher's expression flickered with amusement. Aria knew he had spent years avoiding the spotlight, carefully maneuvering through aristocratic politics. You used to have such a weak presence, she mused. Was that deliberate, to deceive the opposition? He didn't deny it. Instead, she asked, Did you come here in secret, using your ability? No, he admitted. Using it requires a price, so I don't rely on it often. A price? She asked, concerned. It drains my energy, so I need time to recover. Aria thought about her hourglass. It's similar. But why are you revealing such things out in the open? She asked, scanning the surroundings. He smiled. It's just the two of us, and if I keep hiding things, you might refuse to see me. Aria stared at him, slightly shaken. Lord Asher, you said you only wanted a glimpse of me before leaving. Did I interrupt something important? No, he said quietly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's just that once I see you, it's hard to leave. She felt her heartbeat quicken. The wind swirled around them, and for a moment, Asher saw Aria as someone almost untouchable, yet here she was, right in front of him. He leaned forward and placed a light kiss on her head. I think you should head inside. Someone might come soon, he murmured. Aria nodded. I'll see you next time. Just as she turned, a sharp voice rang out. Goodness, what in the world is the meaning of this, Your Highness? Lady Isis stood a few feet away, her expression twisted with rage. In her chambers, Isis slammed her cup onto the table. Damn you, Crown Prince, she spat, hands clenched into fists. Asher watched her with an impassive gaze. I followed that vulgar girl because I was concerned she'd try to seduce someone again, only to find you there. How could I not be upset? What gives you the right to be angry? Asher asked, unimpressed. What do you mean? You are to be engaged to me, Your Highness, she shouted. Oh dear, Asher said mockingly. That's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. What? Isis looked stunned. I'd rather remain single than marry you. Her face twisted in fury. How can you say that? Don't expect me to entertain your delusions, he retorted coldly. Isis trembled. How dare you, Asterope? She clenched her fists, remembering her father's words. You will be Empress, Isis. Yes, father. She narrowed her eyes at Asher. You should be more careful. You've heard about the casino ledger, haven't you? Asher raised an eyebrow. You already know who else is involved, don't you? Isis stiffened. I have no idea what you're talking about. Asher sighed. Then I have nothing more to say. As he walked away, Isis trembled with rage. The ledger? How dare he accuse me? She threw her cup to the floor. Those nobles only supported me because they thought I would become empress. But if House Frederick falls, they'll laugh behind my back. A maid stepped forward hesitantly. Lady Isis, Lady Miel is waiting for you. Right. She had called for Miel. Miel greeted her with a graceful smile. It's been a long time, Lady Isis. Have you been well? Isis gestured for her to sit. Well, as you know, things haven't been great, Isis admitted. Someone has been spreading false rumors about me. Miel tilted her head. I heard those rumors. Who could be so cruel? If there's anything I can do, I'd be happy to help. Isis relaxed slightly. There is something, she said, sipping her tea. Miel leaned in eagerly. Yes? What is it? It concerns that woman. Miel tensed. Isis continued, voice cold. The reputation of the nobility has suffered because of her. Could you make sure she's gone before it's too late? Miel clenched her fists. I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing all this time. She remembered Emma's words. Since she's a leech, maybe a little insect repellent in her tea would do the trick. Miel's eyes lit up. Of course, Lady Isis. I'll do whatever it takes. One morning, Barry poured tea for Aria. Aria suddenly called out Barry. Barry hesitated. Yes, miss? Aria narrowed her eyes. What is it? Barry asked nervously. That's what I'd like to ask. Aria thought, watching her closely. Aria sat quietly, taking in the tense atmosphere. The hushed whispers in the corridors didn't go unnoticed. She's acting suspiciously. Just look at her, someone murmured. They think I'm feeling guilty about something, Aria thought, sensing their suspicion. Just then, Annie burst into the room, excitement written all over her face. A letter arrived for you. And guess what? Someone's downstairs right now. Aria arched an eyebrow. And who might that be? Annie giggled. I don't know his name, but I'm sure he's interested in you, miss. Ever since you attended Lady Sarah's engagement ceremony, so many men have been visiting. Just imagine how many suitors you'll have when you come of age. Aria smirked. I see. Hand me the letter. As Annie passed her the sealed envelope, she sat beside Aria. Finding the right match for you won't be easy, though. You're amazing, miss, she added with admiration. Aria opened the envelope and scanned its contents. It was from Louis Pinonua. He's crediting investor A, she mused. Her gaze sharpened as she read further. The sum I've invested isn't much, but Asher wants to show a connection between the Crown Prince and rising influential businessmen. He needs to demonstrate power to challenge the aristocratic party. A sigh escaped her lips as she pondered. Asher reminds me of my past self, naive, ignorant, and used by everyone. My life was a failure. He, too, once failed at everything. Did he lose to the nobility because he was powerless against them? Just like I did? If my influence has given us both a second chance, then perhaps we're in the same boat without realizing it. We're partners in this. Her thoughts were interrupted by Annie's sharp voice. What are you doing? I told you to pour me some tea. Are you ignoring me? She snapped at Barry. Aria watched as Barry hesitated. Are you implying that I should pour it myself? Just look at her attitude, miss. Annie huffed, pointing at the maid. With a dismissive wave, Aria spoke. You can have mine, Annie. Barry just poured it for me. But I'm not thirsty. Barry flinched. May I really? Annie hesitated. She thinks I would scold Barry. I must be in a good mood today, Aria thought. Barry's expression, however, was stiff with fear as Annie raised the cup. I knew it. The look on her face, she did something to the tea. Aria's fingers tightened around her hourglass case. Annie took a sip. Barry gasped, suddenly knocking the cup from her hands. Tea spilled onto Annie's dress. What on earth are you doing? Annie exclaimed, startled. Are you all right? Barry asked, visibly tense. Do I look all right? Annie scoffed. Do you need another scolding? Hurry and wipe it off. Aria remained silent. gripping her hourglass. Sweat formed on her brow. I need to stay calm. The hourglass is only for emergencies. But before she could act, Annie's complexion turned deathly pale. Horror struck Aria. Annie collapsed. Annie! Aria called, rushing to her side. Her skin had turned corpse-like in an instant. This is a deadly poison. Aria's sharp gaze locked onto Barry. What did you put in the tea? Barry staggered back. This wasn't supposed to happen. The tea wasn't meant for you, Annie. Aria grabbed Barry's hair, her voice low. You're panicking. Your eyes have lost focus. It was you, wasn't it? You poisoned my mother's tea in the past, and after that you whispered to me so calmly. A chilling memory resurfaced. I'm sure it was Lady Miel who killed the Countess. How can you tolerate her after she did such a thing? If you want, I'll help you poison her, miss. This time, you can have Lady Miel's tea poisoned. Aria's grip tightened. Did my mother and I seem so insignificant to you that we deserved to die? Without hesitation, she turned the hourglass. Time reversed. When she opened her eyes, Annie was standing in front of her, unharmed. Miss, why are you holding the hourglass? Annie tilted her head. Oh, did you need something? You should have just told me. Aria stared at her. You were dead just seconds ago. Annie, unaware, smiled. Are you feeling unwell, miss? Aria's fury burned beneath the surface. Barry, you vile wench. I will make you regret everything. She reached for the teacup and pretended to sip. Moments later, her body trembled and she collapsed. Barry's eyes widened in terror before she bolted from the room. Miss! Someone call a doctor! Annie screamed. Chaos erupted. Jessie rushed in. What happened? Miss Aria drank the tea and fainted. Servants whispered among themselves in fear. The Countess arrived moments later. Find Barry immediately. Have the tea examined, she ordered. A physician was called. Miss Aria has not been fatally poisoned, he confirmed. Perhaps the symptoms are mild because she consumed only a small amount. This is fortunate. Aria smirked inwardly. Of course. I only pretended to drink it. The Countess remained tense. Then why was she unconscious for so long? Her body must have been exhausted from countering the poison, the physician explained. Aria sighed softly. I slept well, thanks to the hourglass. Her mother grasped her hand. Aria, if you feel unwell, you must tell us immediately. Jessie clenched her fists. Barry, you wench! How dare she? She really thought she could get away with harming Miss Aria. Jessie handed Aria a cup. Here, miss. It's honey water. It's safe. I took a sip first. Please drink and recover quickly. Aria accepted it, sipping lightly. What happened to Barry? She asked. She's being tracked down by the guards. She won't escape, the Count assured her. Aria smirked. I hope she stays missing for a while. That way, everyone will pity me longer. Her gaze shifted to Miel, who stood pale beside her maid Emma. Are you all right, Miel? Aria asked. Miel flinched. Me? I'm fine. You were the one who sent Barry to me. If she had stayed with you instead, you could have been the victim. It's frightening to imagine. Aria trailed off, pretending to be emotional. Miel stiffened. You should focus on resting, the Countess urged. We'll check on you later. Days passed, and rumors spread like wildfire. Sarah arrived with Marquise Vincent. She rushed to Aria's bedside, tears welling in her eyes. Lady Aria? Aria blinked. You came all this way. Of course, how could we not, after something so serious happened to you? You look so thin, Sarah sniffled. That's because I've been eating less on purpose, Aria thought. I'll send people to find the culprit, Marquise Vincent assured. Sarah squeezed Aria's hand. No matter what rumors say, remember, you are not alone. There are people who truly care about you. Aria stared at her, slightly taken aback. Sarah, even if I became a villainess again, would you still have faith in me? She exhaled. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more manhwa content. See you in the next one.